This is
Like,
Good morning, City of Kalamunda. Can you hear us on your end?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great, thank you. I'll hand it over to the presiding member.
okay, well, good morning, everybody, and under the new way of handling these meetings, if you haven't been before, we all come into the meeting room here at the department. So firstly, I'll declare the meeting open and acknowledge the traditional owners and pay respects to elders past and present of the land in which the meeting is held. It is being recorded and live streamed, so we'll get used to this in due course, but if you could mention your names if you're going to speak, and I don't know who you are. Item 2 on the agenda is apologies. We have none. Item 3, members on leave of absence, none noted. Item 4, noting the minutes of previous meeting, as previously they're all on the DAP website. The next part of the meeting is part B, and we move into declaration of due consideration. City of Kalamunda and the panel members, can you please acknowledge that you're familiar with all the items on the agenda. So just raise your hands. Thank you, councillors. Disclosures of interest. There's a standard declaration or a standing declaration of interest for local government members. If you've got any problem with that, let me know. Also on the City of Kalamunda, I would like to disclose my interest as being a member of the WA Planning Commission, who are also the responsible authority in this regard, and approving authority, sorry. That my interest has been noted previously, and I have been given authority to participate and vote on the matter. Item 3, Form 1 DAP application. We have the Public Works Transport Depot, Berkshire Road, Forestfield. We have one deputation. No, we don't have. Okay, sorry, that's the next one. At this stage, I'll ask panel members if they have any questions. The planning officers, are they here? Or?
Yes, presiding member. So the City of Kalamunda put in a recommendation, as we were asked to do, and when it came back, our main problem was just completely taken out. And I would like to ask our officer to speak on that so all the panel members understand our why we really need this. We can't pass on costs to other landowners, and this site came with the DCP cost and everybody knew that. So could we go to our officer to explain that, please?
I think that would be appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, presiding member. Regan Travers, Manager of Approval Services. Just making a quick comment. The the city's conditional support for the proposal was based on a number of conditions. The most prominent of those, I think, is one that required a developer contribution to be made. We note that the report prepared by the Commission acknowledges the requirement for a developer contribution but has dismissed it in this instance. The city's view is that SPP 3.6 does not specifically exclude public works from DCP contributions, and there's actually no reference to public works in SPP 3.6. There is a reference to utilities and services having to provide a monetary contribution based on infrastructure. It would be significant, would have a significant impact if a developer contribution was not levied on this development. It would need to be, I guess, the costs for developing the area would need to be redistributed amongst the remaining properties if it wasn't applied to this one. We also would like to point out that we think it's important that when we're making a planning decision, the general planning framework that applies to the site and pretty standard planning interpretation principles should apply in this case, and not a reinterpretation of SPP 3.6, which we think has occurred. Thank you.
Okay. So we don't have the planning commission. Oh, Mario. Mario, can you respond to that, please?
Yeah, thank you, presiding member. Can you all hear me? Because I can't see myself. I'm not sure if I'm on the screen.
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Thanks for the question. In response to the question about the DCP, it was considered by the officers at the department in consultation with our DCP team as well. The conclusion that we came to was consideration was given to the decision is being made under the Metropolitan Region Scheme and not necessarily the local planning scheme. We recognise that there's a DCP which the council has in place, but because the decision's been made under the Metropolitan Region Scheme, and there's not usually a mechanism to require a developer contribution under the MRS, as well as considering the broad intent of the SPP in relation to providing contributions. In this case, it's a public works. The interpretation that we took in this case was not to put on the DCP condition. But in saying that, we do understand the city's concerns in relation to if it's not put on, there will be an amount of money not paid on this particular site, and that would have an impact on the city moving forward in terms of that will need to be distributed to other landowners. So we do understand that, and we understand the city's concerns in relation to that. I should also point out that we did send the applicant, which is in this case the PTA, a copy of the city's conditions, and they're attached to the report with responses to those. And the applicant didn't necessarily raise a concern with that particular condition, so that may want to be considered as well. So I guess from our point of view, we just took the interpretation that's approved under the Metropolitan Region Scheme and the broad view of the SPP in relation to this as a public works, and we decided not to apply the condition. But yeah, we do understand the city's concerns, and we did have those comments from the PTA in relation to they didn't specifically raise a concern with that particular condition.
Just a question, did the PTA buy this property on the open market? Are you aware?
Well, I'm aware they did buy. I'm not sure if the PTA are available to answer that themselves, but they did. My understanding is that they purchased a property from a private landowner. My understanding, whether that was on the open market or whether they contacted them directly, I'm not too sure about those details.
Because if they did, they would have, in doing due diligence, realised that there was a requirement for a DCP. In some instances, I have heard that the DCP has been factored into a sale price so that the buyer doesn't have to carry it. But anyway, that's something that we're not familiar with, but I'll just ask that question. Is the PTA online? Hello, Peter?
Sorry, the mute button just appeared for me. That's fantastic. Yes, Peter Jones here from the Public Transport Authority.
Yep.
Yes, we did. It was we made direct contact with the owner. So we basically sought out this property because it was such a strategic location. We went looking for properties that were very close to the new train station that was being built. We were aware of the developer contribution when we bought the property. Outside of that, so we were expecting to pay it. In saying that, the PTA generally is exempt on rates for local government rates for any bus depot property. So I didn't quite, whilst we acknowledged we were probably paying the developer contribution, I didn't explore the option as to the fact that we're also exempt from rates and whether that would have an application in relation to the developer contribution.
Okay, thank you. And we can consider that in our discussion.
Presiding member, please, can we go back to our officer for a comment on that?
Well, yes, if you'd like to come through.
Thank you, presiding member. Just I guess a concluding comment based on what we've just heard. I think that it's important for the panel to take into account that the city's view is that there is sufficient nexus between the development that is proposed and the requirement for a contribution. And, whether the landowner would, in the purchasing negotiations was aware of the need to pay a contribution, that requirement did exist and was there for everyone to see. So it's not a surprise. It would be expected by any developer who would buy a property like this one. So we've got to a point where we've got a development which we think we're certain provides a nexus to require that contribution. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. I've monopolised questions. Any other panel members have questions? Yes, Lindsay.
Mario, hi, it's Lindsay Baxter here. Just following up on what you've indicated, that you didn't think a DCP applied to a public work, although the City of Kalamunda has a different position on that. But I am interested in whether a DCP can be levied against a development that doesn't require approval under the local planning scheme, which also you alluded to. Is there a sort of a legal position on that?
Thanks, Lindsay. Not necessarily a legal position that I'm aware of. There has been a couple of previous decisions that I'm aware of. There was this one didn't particularly go to a DAP meeting, but there was a DFES building approved in Coburn Central. So this is like a DFES training facility in Coburn Central, and in that particular case, a DCP it was in a DCP area as well, and a DCP contribution wasn't imposed in that particular case. That was probably 5 or so years ago now. That was through the statutory planning committee, so it didn't go through the JDAP. I think more recently there was an application for a similar DFES building in, I think, Byford, in the Shire of Serpentine in Jarrahdale. Again, in a DCP area, the condition wasn't imposed. But I think in that particular case, the local government did have a provision in their scheme which made it a bit clear in relation to public works, which the City of Kalamunda have in this particular case.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well, are there any other questions of the presenter or the proponents, Mr. Caboni, or council from the panel? Yes, Nima.
I just wanted to talk about whether it's now one of the conditions that I have a problem with.
You can certainly ask that.
To the city, I looked at condition 13. If you could have a look at that. And in condition 13, you've talked about stormwater. And it's interesting, you have not asked, like say prior to putting for an occupation or building permit, for a stormwater management plan. There seems to be a condition which I see very loose, which is number 13, that the stormwater to be contained. So the city does not require a stormwater management plan or something prior to the occupation or building permit? Most likely the building permit, not occupation.
Can you just get up? Yeah.
Sorry, we're just checking what our previous recommendation was.
Just say stormwater to be contained on the site. Now, usually, in the majority of the cases, there usually is the city would request stormwater management plan prior to the issue of a building permit. So it's just, yep.
Yep, through the chair, thank you for the question. The city doesn't have any objection to a more specific condition being applied, but in this circumstance, through the building permit phase, we have mechanisms in place to check and assess that stormwater disposal is to the city's satisfaction. So that naturally would occur. So as long as there's a condition of some form that gives the city some certainty that the applicant will take some action in that regard, we don't have a concern with a more specific condition being in place, but condition 13 is sufficient as we see it.
Okay, thanks. And my second was, given that you've got fuel storage tanks on the premises, besides your advisory note 1, you don't seem to have any conditions regarding that they meet the regulatory requirements under DMIRS for fuel storage. Are you relying on advisory note number 1 to ensure that there is compliance?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I guess the city understands that the operator of the site will have certain standards that they need to meet. We haven't conditioned a specific requirement for hydrocarbon storage. It's not something that the city has done with other similar proposals where we have fuel stations. We've kind of moved away from conditioning that.
Are you happy with advisory note number 1?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lindsay, you have another question?
I do have a question to Regan Travers at the City of Kalamunda. Regan, with respect to the DCP, what amount of money would be levied against this site if such a condition were to be imposed?
Thank you for the question. I believe it was just over $450,000, so quite a substantial contribution.
Okay, and is the DCP predicated on the value of development or the land area?
It would be on the land area.
Okay, which is mostly vacant. We're looking at a big transport depot that's essentially car park with one building. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any further questions of council or the proponents or the commission? If not, thank you very much. Well, we'll move on in the agenda, and we have before us a report, an application, and so we can go into discussion on it. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Moved Lindsay Baxter, seconded Nina. Thank you, Nina. Okay, as the mover, Lindsay, would you like to speak to the item?
Okay, there's not a lot to say on this particular application, but I will move to support it. The application for the transport depot on the basis that it complies with the strategic and statutory objectives for the site and is necessary public infrastructure. The application complies with the criteria under which it's required to be assessed pursuant to the Metropolitan Region Scheme in terms of the zoning of the land, orderly and proper planning and preservation of the amenities of the area. In that regard, it is located on land that's zoned industrial development under the local planning scheme, so it is the type of development that could be expected. Initially, I thought the design review panel assessment was a bit harsh given the type of development, but it is pleasing to note that the comments and concerns were taken into account with revised plans submitted, which addressed the issues that were raised about the building and the siting. Accordingly, I am prepared to support the proposal. I do foreshadow two small changes to conditions 4 and 10. Would you like me to raise those now?
You certainly can, yes.
All right, they are fairly small. Condition 4, I would move just a minor alteration to the wording of that condition in relation to the retention of a tree or trees. Revised wording would say the two existing mature trees identified for retention on the approved plans being protected and retained. So just inserting the words protected and retained to the specifications of the City of Kalamunda and the satisfaction of the WA Planning Commission. That would be my first one. Condition 10C, I would just reword this a little bit towards the end of the paragraph in condition 10C, but I'll read it out in full. Vehicle parking and manoeuvring and circulation areas are to be suitably constructed, sealed, curbed, line marked and drained. I would put in there, in accordance with Australian Standard AS 2890, to the specifications of the City of Kalamunda and to the satisfaction of the West Australian Planning Commission. It's really just moving the Australian Standard into the in accordance with, rather than to the satisfaction of the Australian Standard, which is not a board or an entity. So just a little bit of rewording in there. Is that fairly clear? They're the two small changes I put forward.
Okay. We can deal with those as an amending motion. Or the mover and seconder. All right. Okay. All right. Well, the mover and seconder have agreed to those changes, and we can deal with them in the substantive motion as amendments to. Okay, so you don't have any further to add?
I don't.
Okay, Nima is seconded. Do you wish to speak to the board?
Thank you, Presiding Member. Nima Prentice Specialist. I'd like to say it was a good report, and it's the entire development with the bus depot, etc., falls in line with what's happening along the Metronet, the new stations coming in. With the queries that I've had, I'm satisfied with the City's comments that they have got mechanisms in place to address the stormwater issues, and also that the fuel storage tank and the requirements to make sure that they're built to the licence requirements would be adequately addressed to advisory note number 1. Also concurring with Deputy Presiding Member, I congratulate PTA for the fact that we did not have to go through and carry out modifications to the design review panel's recommendations, but you did so, which was good to see. So yes, I hope the development goes well for PTA and the City of Kalamunda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, do you wish to foreshadow any amendments to the recommendations? Speak to the item.
Yes, thank you, Presiding Member. On page 5, it says that the City of Kalamunda support subject to conditions. But our condition was just completely taken out. So this is a big impost on the City of Kalamunda and the landowners to pick up the bit that the government isn't paying. So it's not a good look, and I'm surprised that the panel thinks it's okay just to take the DCP out. And yeah, so prior to the lodgement of the building permit, arrangements being made to the satisfaction of the City of Kalamunda to ensure that a cost contribution be made. That was our condition. And it's just been taken out, and we don't have $450,000 to pay, and our landowners don't have that. And yet infrastructure needs to happen. So we strongly are against approving this application. And while we acknowledge, as you have said, that they did work with our design team, it's a much better design. They've covered the environment. We allowed the less parking of 88 parking bays instead of the 130, something we would normally, 138 we would normally require. So all of that we're happy with, but we are not happy to allow this building to be different, or this site to be different to every other site in this area that has to pay a DCP. Of all people, the PTA would have the money to pay a DCP, and yet our landowners have to do it and not them. So we strongly do not support approval of this recommendation.
Okay, are you proposing an amending motion to include that condition?
I am. Thank you, presiding member. The motion to stay the same, but to include our original condition of a DCP, which was presented in our report.
Okay, so are we happy with the wording of that, panel members?
Could we have it read out and
could we read it out all again? Regan, do you have it there that you can read out so that we're familiar with it?
Yeah, so prior to the lodgement of a building permit, arrangements being made to the satisfaction of the City of Kalamunda to ensure that a cost contribution will be made for Lot 4, number 315 Berkshire Road, Forestfield, towards the Forestfield Light Industrial Area Stage 1 Development Contribution Plan for infrastructure and administrative costs pursuant to Clause 6.5 and Schedule 12 of the City of Kalamunda Local Planning Scheme number 3.
Okay, I might just, if we're going to, if you're moving it, I'd like to change the wording so that it's to the requirements of the City of Kalamunda, and then it'll go through and right at the end say to the satisfaction of the WA Planning Commission.
Yep.
Yes.
They are the clearing authority. So if everybody's satisfied with that, you're moving that, Councillor Thomas?
I am, and I am satisfied with that. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Okay.
Councillor Kathy Ritchie.
Okay, do we need to discuss that any further, or we can take a vote on it? All those in favour?
Oh, sorry, we're voting on my motion.
Yes, the amending motion.
Yeah, thank you. All those thank you.
Right, I'll go along with that. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you. All right. Does anyone else wish to speak to the item in regard to the overall recommendation as amended? If not, okay. Well, I'll just reiterate that I too am satisfied with the proposal. I think that it's an appropriate one for the planning framework. The proponents have worked well with council and also the commission to achieve a good outcome. It's an essential public work, and I'm satisfied that the amendment to include the development contribution, which is not an insignificant sum, is an appropriate one. So with that, I will ask Lindsay to close debate on the item.
Thank you, presiding member. I don't really have anything further to add. I was prepared to support the Shire and City of Kalamunda's amending motion. I'm still a little bit in doubt as to whether a DCP can apply under the MRS. But given that we have a willing applicant here, and as the presiding member said, it's a significant amount of money, I think it's appropriate to include that condition at this stage. So otherwise, I don't have anything further to add on the application. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Then I'll put the recommendation as amended for the conditions that we've all debated and discussed. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, City of Kalamunda. Department and Public Transport Authority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to part C on the agenda now, which is the City of Wanneroo. There's an application for a fuel outlet and food outlets. And there's declaration of due consideration. Are all panel members familiar with all the items on the agenda? The reports. Oh, sorry, disclosures of interest. Oh, the city just coming in? Okay, all right. Wings. Oh, no, you can.
Good morning, City of Wanneroo officers. It's Ashley from the DAP Secretariat. I was just wondering if the councillors were in the room this morning with you.
Yes, you've got Councillor Herridge this morning.
Okay, do we know where Councillor?
Kowetsi.
Yes.
Just double checking whether she's coming in on Zoom, sorry. We have had a little bit of a mix around with attending for this morning, so.
I forwarded.
She's messaging.
Councillor Herridge.
Is there anyone in the waiting room by any chance?
No, we are told though that Councillor Coetzee is logging in now, so we'll just wait for her. It should only be a minute or so.
Yes. Okay, and the presentation. So presenters.
No, unless.
This one's actually called and sourced. Because it's still got a convenience store component.
Maybe it's because the scheme includes convenience store. Giving satisfaction where some don't.
Hi, City Wanneroo, it's Ashley at the DAP Secretariat. Just letting you know, we're just waiting on councillor to join. She just logged off and we've lost her again. So we're just going to try and get her before we start the meeting.
Thank you.
Although it would be cool if there were
Can you guys hear me?
Hi, yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, they can hear me now. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, we'll move on to part C of the agenda today and do a declaration to consideration. Are all panel members familiar with the substance of all reports and items before us? Please raise your hand. And Councillor Sonnet, if you could let me know that you are, oh sorry, Councillor Coetzee, could you confirm that you are also in?
I did.
Oh, there we are. Thank you very much. We can now see. Okay. All right. Next item, disclosures of interest. That's just a standing declaration of interest for local government members. Item 3, the DAP application for number 19 Nearabut Road, Clarkson, for the service station and fast food outlet. Under item 3, we have a presentation from Mr. Ben Doyle from Planning Solutions, presenting in support, and we'll address request to delete condition 16. Mr. Doyle, would you like to make your presentation, please?
Thank you, presiding member. I trust everyone can hear me okay?
Thank you. Yes, we can.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to present. As you can see, obviously, I'm joining online. I understand one of the developers, Jared Sizer, is present in the room, although I can't see him. And also we have John Young, his business partner, online available, so they'll be able to answer any questions in addition to myself. I did see a Perth Now article headline, WA's first Starbucks could be coming to lucky Perth suburb. So I'm very excited to be here presenting on this application. I know my teens and tweens are eagerly excited as well. Thank you to the city's officers for their diligent assessment of this application, which was lodged back in November, particularly and specifically Adam Wood and Greg Bowring at the city, who I see online also. Their assistance has helped us to enhance the design and the layout of the site, and that also involved, I see, referral to a member of the design review panel, whose comments and recommendations were also taken on board in refining this proposal to what you now see before you today. We've reviewed the RAR. It is thorough and comprehensive. I trust it answers all the questions that you may have in relation to the proposal, and we are pleased to see it's recommended for approval. As flagged in the presentation summary request, we are seeking the deletion of condition 16, which relates to restricting the delivery times to the site. That has also been discussed with the city's officers, and it is our understanding, and I expect they can confirm for you, it's our understanding that the city also is comfortable with condition 16 being deleted. It was imposed, I understand, as a fairly standard condition where this sort of facility may be in a residential area. In the context of this site, it's agreed, I understand, by the city that it is not necessary. And also, we would point out that the acoustic report submitted does confirm that deliveries would comply with the environmental noise regulations at all times, day and night. So this being the case, we would seek your support for the application as recommended with the deletion of condition 16. And I'll be pleased to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, any of you have a question of the presenter, please? If not, do any panel members have questions of the City of Wanneroo staff? I do. Mr. Bowring, are you satisfied with the deletion of condition 16?
Yeah, thank you. We just lost you there for a few moments immediately when Mr. Doyle stopped speaking. So, yes, we've discussed that internally. While it is theoretically a mixed-use area, which may accommodate apartments and the like, at this time there's nothing in proximity, as Mr. Doyle pointed out, it complies with the noise regulations from the nearest existing residential. We don't believe there's any real harm in removing that condition in this instance.
Thank you very much. Further questions from the panel? If not, we can go directly into the item on the agenda. And in order that we can commence our discussion, can I have a mover and a seconder on the recommendation at this stage? Moved, Nemo. Seconded, Councillor Coetzee. Nemo, you wish to speak to the item, please?
Yes, thank you, presiding member. All in all, a very good report that has answered a lot of the questions that I had as I went through. I have no issues in terms of the deletion of condition number 16, which we could probably do in the motion later on, presiding member.
Yes.
And with the land use, I see that it has been addressed as discretionary, so thank you for outlining that, and the landscaping, and also for giving the applicant and the city the work they have done to ensure that the acoustics has been maintained, and of course that all the bushfire management plans has been adequately addressed to a bell level of 12.5. So congratulations, and I hope it goes well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Coetzee, you wish to speak to the item?
I'm happy with the report. I think it's very thorough. Thank you.
Okay. Any other panel members wish to speak to the item? Lindsay?
Thank you. I'm prepared to support this application. It complies with the strategic and statutory considerations, albeit with some discretion to be applied to the tree planting and landscaping. It is noted that both buildings are template fit for purpose, designed for their intended use, but with some architectural features to give them some interest. They appear to be complementary to the locality, so I'm prepared to support it on that basis. I do foreshadow a correction to a typographical error and possibly the removal of a couple of advice notes. I just also raise as a query, although I don't intend to move to change these though, is the imposition of condition 1 and condition 3, which don't really lend themselves to compliance with anything. I won't seek to remove them at this stage, but I will suggest that, first of all, the typographical error is in condition 8. There just needs to be an S removed from the word abut, so that the sentence reads where the parking bays abut a concrete path. I do foreshadow deleting condition 2, which is exactly the same as advice note 2, which is the same as condition 2, and deleting advice note 7, which is exactly the same as conditions 2 and 3. I'd also just note that some of the advice notes, in particular condition 6, includes the word must, which actually makes a condition. I won't seek to change that at this stage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the item? Yes, Councillor.
Sorry, thank you. It's Councillor Herridge from Wanneroo. Just wanted to say thanks to the team. They've actually answered quite a lot of my questions from yesterday, which is fantastic. Looking forward to seeing it going in as well. Not knowing the area in particular myself, but quite happy to see that there's the tree planting that is in there. And we've taken considerable note of all of the traffic and what have you that's happening in there, because I was thinking it was quite a constrained site as well. But happy to leave the conditions as is.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm just going to say that I support the proposal. It complies with most of the standards under the council scheme, supported by the well-written responsible authority report. Minor variations to some of the standards are supported. Buildings well designed to mitigate off-site impacts. The location of service areas and parking have been done so with thought of properties opposite, and it's a fit for purpose site for the site. It's a busy intersection, and the roads are quite busy, and these sorts of uses lend themselves to be located on those. In terms of the amendments. Can I have someone move the amending motions, please, to the deletion of item 6, condition 16? Okay. Did you want to include in that, Lindsay, if you're happy to move in block all of your amendments and we can take them as one?
Sure. Did you want me to read them out again?
Yes.
Cover them again?
Yes, please.
Okay, so just correction of a typographical error in condition 8. Removal of advice note 2 and removal of advice note 7, really just those ones. I think the principal mover has dealt with condition 16. I think we agree to removal of that, yeah.
Okay.
I don't seek to change anything else.
All right, well, that's the amending motion as read out by Lindsay for those conditions and advice notes, and also deletion of 16. Are you happy to be the mover for that, all of that, Nima?
Yeah.
Okay. Seconder for those amending motions? Okay, Lindsay, everybody, could you indicate whether you're in favour or not of those amendments? In favour? Okay, that's unanimous. Thanks very much. Okay. Now, Nima, do you wish to close the vote on it before we? No? Okay. All right. Well, I'll put the recommendation with amendments. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. So the application is approved, and we all look forward to tasting Starbucks in Western Australia in due course. Wait for the queues. Councillor Goetze, did you wish to say something?
Yes, sorry that I was late this morning. There was a little bit of a misunderstanding with the attendance of today's meeting, so I'm apologies for it.
That's fine. We got to the end in due course. Okay, on the agenda then we'll move into item 4 on part C, form 2 DAP applications. There's nothing. Item 5, SAT reconsiderations. There are none. On part D, move to that. State Administrative Tribunal and Supreme Court Appeals, they're listed. Item 2 on the part D, general business. Does anyone wish to raise any general business? If not, then I'll close the meeting at 10:24 a.m. and invite everyone to the Starbucks restaurant in due course. Thank you very much, presenters, council staff and proponents who are walking out with a big smile. Thank you very much.